Welcome to Personal Mastery Training. I'm your host, Alvin Brown, former world-class athlete turned entrepreneur and consultant. Join us as we learn from guests who have conquered their inner battles and share their journeys to success. Get ready for inspirational masterclasses and thought-provoking strategy sessions to fuel your path to personal mastery. Let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Personal Mastery Training. This is a masterclass, and I do two episodes in case you're just listening to this today. I do two episodes. One is a strategy episode where I talk about conditions or quotes or anything else from experiences from myself and my clients, because here's what I realize is what I go through, what you go through, a lot of other people go through it. And this is about mastery. It's about mastering life. Between the 3-pound mass between our ears, we didn't get the user's manual to it. And you are lucky, damn lucky, if you're born to two stable people who decide to get together and give you the master workbook to life. Good luck with that. So we have to go out and find it. We have to go out and develop it and develop our own personal mastery, because it's different for everybody. So today it's a masterclass, and I have someone. When I heard this person's story, I thought I have to get her on here, and you sit back and relax. It's gonna be an adventure, this story that we're gonna talk about. So I have Tara Cosgrove Pompetti, aka Tiny T, tremendous Tiny T. She discovered her strength and overcame numerous challenges by turning her passion for fitness into a resource that enabled her to channel her pain. And you'll hear about this. Her life has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. She's a newly minted current fitness universe world champion. She now lives, got up and packed everything, and now lives in the Hollywood Hills, part of her vision, which we're going to talk about. And she's using her method to motivate, inspire, and to lead others to meaningful changes in their life. So, Tara, tremendous Tiny T, what's going on? How you doing?
First off, thank you for that introduction. That was just beautiful. I would replay it just to hear that all over again. But I'm great. I'm happy to be here and to be sharing with you today. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. I'm glad you took the time. I'm glad we could make this happen, because our guests are going to be better for it. So I want to start with your beginning. Tell us a little bit about your beginning, because now we know. So we're looking at you now. I said it. You're living in the Hollywood Hills. You're fitness universe world champion. So tell me, were you lucky or something, or were you born under the right star? How did this
Oh my
all
God.
happen? Tell us
What a
about the beginning.
journey. What a journey, right? And I love talking about the beginnings because oftentimes that is what we think, when we see people accomplish amazing things. We think that maybe they had more opportunity, maybe they have more time, maybe they had more contacts, more resources, but that wasn't any of the case, and I'm really I'm very happy to be able to share this story, because I think that by sharing our story, we give other people hope, and we demonstrate that it is in fact possible through hard work and commitment and discipline. So when I started, today I'm a champion. I have trouble saying that. World champion. It's pretty big. Fitness universe world champion and entrepreneur, and living in Hollywood, but I'm initially from Montreal. And when I was about 17, it was one of my biggest dreams, to compete on an international platform. I remember just looking at those magazines, the Strong magazine and the Oxygen magazine, and I would read them on the treadmill while I do my cardio, and I just looked at those women, and they inspired me so much. I knew that that was what I wanted for myself, but I didn't always think that that was possible.
Okay. And then, so when you think about that, let's even start there. I'm gonna cut into your story. You didn't think that was possible. There's lots of people out there who are at that point in their life. They want something, but right in front of them, in their mind, right in front of them is a block. that didn't think it was possible, then how did you get here?
So for sure, it's a long journey. But the
Mm-hmm.
first thing is, I think that most of the time we don't think things are possible because we actually just don't know how to do it. So our efforts will not lead to those results. So because of that, or we see outside, it's like having the blueprint of a business. Without having that blueprint, you just don't know how to do it. So it becomes not possible in your mind. So I was working out. I did start working out and I kept working out because being physically fit was something that I valued and I saw my mom do as well when I was very young. But
Okay.
I never really would get the results that I wanted, in terms of really having that, that nice toned
Right.
body.
Right.
And eventually, what led to getting the results was, working with a professional and working with a coach that showed me the proper methods. But what took me in that direction is a complete different spiral that we're going to get into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But again, I guess like to highlight, on that point about, thinking what's possible and overcoming that barriers. A lot of the times it does have to do with working with the individuals that could show us the way.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. So what Tara is pointing to now is something. So there's a man out there. He came up with the concept, Joseph Campbell, with the hero's journey. And I did a podcast on this a couple of podcasts ago. Go back a few weeks as those listening, and it's called the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is these steps, 12 steps or so, where you have the ordinary world, which is where everybody's kind of hanging out, where it's ordinary, very ordinary. And then you get called. So you're on this treadmill at 17, looking at all these magazines, and you got called to the special world. This special world is this world where we go on this journey to find ourself and our passion to live in the Hollywood Hills. So
Oh,
you got
but
this,
wasn't that fast?
right? Yeah, you get this call and then you get pulled. But and you meet a mentor. So you're saying that I need a mentor. You found a mentor. Did you ask for help, or how did they pop up in your life?
Well,
Did you go searching for them?
so that's a great question. So it didn't happen just like that. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person of faith. And I do think that when we take the time to listen, we'll be guided in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And my first, one of the first things that I had done at 17, 18, because my parents got separated when I was really young. At 18, I was living alone. And I was only working at a tanning salon, making maybe $300 a week. I remember times I could barely pay for gas in my car or buy food. So at that point, my priority was to get a job that would give me security and stability. So status was also something that was important to me because growing up, I grew up English in a French area. So I wasn't always accepted. So for me, having status was something that was really important and made me feel accepted. So I went to work in the financial industry. I was a financial advisor for 10 years. I worked for one of the leading banks. And my passion was always fitness, but I just didn't go after my passion because I did not think I could make a career out of it. Like that was my mindset. Like most of us think is that, we have this passion. Some people want to be actors. Some people want to be, just whatever it is that you want. Most of us, we know deep inside and we never really pursue it because we do according to what will make us successful in society. But the reality is, I wasn't really that successful in the sense I had a job, but I had debt like most people. I had an ordinary car. I was living pay to pay, and I really wasn't all that happy. And what did the switch for me and indicators that I wasn't all that happy, because I think it's important to bring that up as well, because most of us, we're so caught up in our day to day, we don't even realize it. Overconsumption of alcohol on the weekends, taking constant sick leaves, irritable moods, low patience. Like these are all signs that things are not right in our life, and often we're not tapping into it. And anyways, it was in 2013. Sometimes I forget the date because my future is so bright and beautiful right now. That's where there was a turning point where I was attacked and I was stabbed 18 times by my ex.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to dive into that, but
Mm-hmm.
it was that event, that pain, that event that made me hit rock bottom to a point that the only thing I wanted in my life was to be happy after.
Mm-hmm.
And that incident, led me to pursue coaching to overcome challenges with alcohol I was having as a result of that situation. And then one thing led to another. I decided to compete. And once I decided to compete, I realized that I was actually stepping into my purpose and my personal power.
Mm-hmm. That's unbelievable. There's so much here. I'm writing things down.
I know it's like hard to just
Uh-huh.
wrap up like that.
Right. No, there's a lot here. So, and there's a lot here people can learn from you. So here you are. You weren't living the life you wanted to live
No.
inside. It didn't match. You're inner and outer at 17,
Mm-hmm.
18 years old. You had a lot going on. So let me kind of step back here for a second, kind of
Mm-hmm.
recount. Teenager, you saw the magazine, you wanted to, you had this a spark in you, like
Oh
a
my God,
light, a
yes.
little pilot light, right? It was a little pilot. It wasn't any roaring yet. It was just a
I've
pilot
always
light.
wanted it.
Yeah, yeah, but was it,
It was
you wanted
dimmed.
it, but you didn't know how to do it. You didn't know how to get
It,
there.
it just didn't seem possible. So for me,
Right.
living that was going to the gym. That was the most I would ever live that.
That's as close as you'll get, right? You thought.
That's what I thought.
Okay, okay, okay. That's good. That's good. So those listening now, so think about it. You have a dream. And I like what Tara said. She said, so in front of the dream is a whole bunch of narratives. You can't do that here. You will never make any money. What will people say? You're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make your parents proud. You want to make other people proud. Some people, I know some people have gone on and become doctors and lawyers and they hate it. They don't even want, but they wanted to make other people proud and happy
Mm-hmm.
for themselves. So you had this, so here you are, you're on this treadmill and you're 17, you're looking at the magazine and you're wishing, desiring, but in front of you is this this cloud and these noise. Blah, blah, blah. You can't do this, you can't do this. So you get working, doing some things to pay bills, getting by, not doing your passion. So you meet some person and you start getting into distractions like alcohol, and you're getting
Mm-hmm.
into things to numb the
Mm-hmm.
the pain of
Mm-hmm.
avoiding your legend, living out your legend.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to
Mm-hmm.
keep it quiet, because it's burning, you get into some alcoholism, meet the wrong person,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't even know you were the wrong person because you're so numbing everything out that you said. Most people do this. So you meet this wrong person, they take you down the wrong track, and it took being stabbed 18 times, almost, I'm sure, almost losing your life. Uh,
Yeah.
right? Almost losing your life. But that pain, out of that pain, you started to get this idea that I gotta go out and live my passion. I can't
Mm-hmm.
waste time. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
change my life around. Right?
Yeah, and I think yeah, it's pretty incredible. It really is. And when I look at it, like what I try to teach today is that we're all going to go through difficult moments. We're all
Mm-hmm.
going to have losses and
Mm-hmm.
things, horrible things that will happen. But the reality is when we overcome, I'm sure you've heard this before, there's a lesson and a blessing, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
if you take the lessons and you have the courage to overcome the pain,
Mm-hmm.
there's usually something really incredible waiting for us after. And like
Yeah.
today, when people tell me, they're like, "Oh my God, that's horrible." I'm like, "No," I'm like, "It's the best thing that could have happened in my life."
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
it gave me that strength. It gave me that
Mm-hmm.
courage to actually, to realize that I want it more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
And so Tara is bringing up a lot of points for me that I talked about earlier, but she's really bringing them to highlight in her story. So in Tara's story, the reason why I recounted is that in her story is everybody. Somebody wants to live the life they didn't. They numb themselves to by doing things, whether it be some addiction, they numb themselves. And then, but something significant happens
Mm-hmm.
and you say, that's it. I can't, it's not numb anymore. You brought up a really fantastic point that a lot of times we avoid stress, pain. That's just human nature. We avoid stress and pain. But if you can lean into the pain
Mm-hmm.
like you did with the where your life was,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere out of that, the truth comes.
Comes
So
out.
when you were at your lowest point, when you got stabbed in the hospital together and the whole 9 yards, did at what point did everything just become clear and you
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm not going to take any more, I'm not going to step back anymore?
Yeah, so it took time, of course, like
Hmm.
whenever we go through anything traumatic, there's a process, there's
Hmm.
the process of shock, and then there's the process of usually they say it's shock, and then eventually it's acceptance, and then
Hmm.
eventually you recreate your identity. Some
Right.
people never get out of the shock
Yeah.
period or
That's
the
my next
anger,
question.
unfortunately, like living in the past, living in the pain, rather than recreating yourself from it. But
Hmm.
it took time. Like at first I was really in avoidance. Like when I first got out of the hospital, it was really horrible. Like I was stabbed 18 times, 6 times in the neck. I was stabbed in the
Whoa.
face.
Oh,
My kidney was punctured, my lung was
damn.
punctured. I was in a coma for 3 weeks. I was brought
Wow.
back to life 3 times. They said that
Wow.
if the ambulance didn't come at 4 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't have made it. So it was
Wow.
a serious, serious, serious attack and serious crime. And when I woke up, all I had was I couldn't talk because I had a trachea,
Trick.
we call him.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was cut from right to left.
Whoa, man.
Yeah, and
Woo.
yeah, and staples all the way down from below my breast to my
Yeah.
belly button because they had
Wow.
to sew me up in the inside. So I woke
Wow.
up to this, and I think it was such a shock because I didn't remember anything from the event. Like even till
Right.
this day, I don't remember a single thing. But
Right.
I knew what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the type of person, I have a very strong character and I've always been like that. So right away, I just wanted to get back to my routine. I wanted to forget about it. So one of the first calls I made was to my boss saying that I wanted to come back to work.
Mm. Mm.
They're like,
Damn.
you like hold on a second.
Yeah.
So I really pushed myself to like go back to work right away. Like as back in work, I think like man, like it couldn't have been even more than 5 weeks later. And that was the hardest part because I was trying to forget, but then
What the
people would
hell?
ask me questions, they'd stare, they'd look. And that was hard because I couldn't
Damn.
forget. Yeah,
Yeah.
as pretty like I never wanted to be the victim. Let's just put it
Right.
that way. I didn't want to be
Right.
the victim. I wanted to get on
Wow.
with my life. And what really made it difficult is that I was struggling with the pain, trying to comprehend why did this happen, and then
Yeah.
obviously accepting also that there was the physical aspect that I was never really bothered with it, but other people seemed more bothered with it than I did. Like poor her type of
Right.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
and I was trying to avoid feeling like that. So
Mm-hmm.
then when I
Wow.
went back to school, so for me, one of my biggest prides was that I was in university. I was studying human resources management, McGill, and I was one of the first ones in my family unit to go to university. So
Ooh.
it was a big part of my identity. And I wanted to accomplish big things in my life. And when I went
Mm.
back to school, I just couldn't focus. I couldn't focus. I was having a lot of PTSD, a lot of nightmares. I couldn't sleep. So I started drinking a lot on the weekends. And then I started missing work and I had to drop out of school. And when I had to drop out of school, it was probably the biggest thing that affected me because it's like as if I started to see my life falling apart. For
Mm.
me, rather than see it like, okay, well, you need to heal now and focus on yourself, I
Mm-hmm.
was seeing it as everything was now caving in. That everything the person I fell in love with tried to kill me. Now I can't go to school anymore. And then that's where things started to turn for the worst. And then I decided to focus on my career instead. So I did my investments license. So that was a distraction again. So I was
Mm-hmm.
just distracting myself rather than healing.
Mm-hmm.
And once I finished my license for that, I had no distractions. And then again, it just went downhill and I started drinking more and more and missing more and more work. And there was just a point where I realized that if, because I played that card of Oh, it's because I have PTSD. I'm not sleeping. No one's going to, no one's going to
Mhm.
question that, of course.
Mhm.
So I was getting off
Mhm.
work, but in reality, I was covering up an alcohol problem.
Mhm.
So I ended up taking off
Wow.
work. And when I took off work, that's when things turned for the worse because I had insurance and I had more money coming in and I had more time and I had a serious alcohol problems. You could just imagine.
Wow. Wow. Wow, Tara, Tara. I'm gonna tell you. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. And those listening, I am certain. So if you're listening to this, and I'm certain part of some of Tara's story resonates with you, but if you're listening and you have a friend, a family member, or someone that you know who is they've gone through things, they're using substance of some kind for distraction, and because they don't want to wake up to the reality that they have. And I'm listening to Tara, and she's saying, I could use my life as an excuse and no one would
Mhm,
question me, and I could use that as a reason why I do this. Here's why I'm
mhm,
doing this. So don't look at me, don't blame me. It's my situation.
mhm.
But I don't know, I still don't know how you have the mindset to pull. It's very difficult. Did you pull your self-awareness is allowing you to see you doing this and somehow pulled yourself out? How did you change the course? How'd you stop? It's
Yeah.
not easy. It's not easy.
No, it wasn't easy. And I would say I was unconscious for quite a while. Like for maybe a year, I was very, 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 um, uh, there was a lot of self-sabotage. And
Mhm.
I was just, just surviving. I wasn't even thinking. I was just going out and drinking and being hungover for 3 days. But I would get so sick, so sick. Like sometimes I remember times that I would be locked in my room in the dark and I could barely move and barely function for 2, 3 days and just be crying and crying and crying and restart that cycle. And I couldn't get out of it. I didn't
Mm.
know what to do to get out of it.
Yeah.
And eventually, what did it for me is that I just got to such a low point. Like the, the 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 being sick, the being tired, like there was like a dissonance, I would say, between who I was and who I wanted to be, my fundamental values, that
Hmm.
my parents taught me and that I wanted to be someone that was successful. So there was a very intense feeling of guilt that was difficult to live with. And that
Yeah.
feeling was eating me up. And eventually I just got to a point where I was so low because I was also mixing drugs and alcohol, that I just wanted to put an end to things. And it
Hmm.
didn't work out that way. And eventually it was my wake up call. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I need help. I need
Yeah.
help. I need to call for help. And I called IVAC, which in Quebec is a service for victims.
Right.
And they referred me right away to a psychologist.
Right.
And one of the first things that resonated with me, and it really it aligns with what you're saying, is that she told me, you see, because what I was doing, and this allowed me to really start changing my behaviors, and it's
Hmm.
something that I also teach today,
Right.
is that she was saying the reason why you're drinking is because your motivation is to feel good.
Right.
Your
Yep.
motivation, that's my motivation. My
Mhm.
motivation is to feel good,
Right.
but my action is actually creating more suffering.
Yep.
And that's when I was like, wait, hold on. So it's like, like when we eat junk food or
Hmm.
whatever, like our
Hmm.
motivation is to feel good,
Yeah.
but that specific behavior is not actually bringing that. So I
Hmm.
had to really realize this and say, well, now I'm going to have to learn new behaviors, and that's going to be hard because it
Yes.
means I'm going to have to go through the emotions. I'm going to have to confront my pain. I'm going to have to
Hmm.
feel it.
Yeah.
And but that pain that I'm going through now is going to relieve me from all the rest of the suffering. So
Yeah.
it's like you could go through immediate pain and then
Yeah.
free yourself,
Hmm.
or you could go through constant, spurts of pleasure that are creating a lifetime of suffering. And
Right.
this is the choice that we have, you know?
Yeah. Huge.
So that was what started the healing process.
Mm-hmm. That
Hmm.
is huge because here's the thing. And I would advise again, anybody who is listening, I'm sure this should resonate with you. And if it's not you, you definitely need to share this with someone, just even this last piece, because humans, we move towards pleasure and we
Hmm.
avoid pain.
Hmm.
Makes sense, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
But here's a problem. Sometimes the true pleasure we deserve and the true happiness we deserve is far in the distance, while
Hmm.
the instant pleasure is right in front of you, which is could be an addiction of some kind, but
Hmm.
it solves the pain you're in right now,
Hmm.
because the pleasure in the distance is going to be painful, as you say, to get there.
Hmm.
And if say if I'm a smoker and you tell me if I stop smoking my 6 packs a day, my 3 packs, my 2 packs, in 5 years, my lung will be regenerated. But the problem is I'm in pain right now.
Hmm.
I can't wait 5 years. I'm in pain right
Right.
now. So this is huge what Tara is sharing with us, is that for those out there who are repeatedly harming themselves
Hmm.
in the present moment, that's why stop blaming yourself. I was actually giving someone this advice. You have to stop blaming yourself and shaming yourself, because when you blame and shame your inner child, you tend to do more of it. It doesn't do the opposite. It doesn't do the opposite. So I love what Tara is saying, is that figure out your vehicle for solving your pain, your present pain, and
Hmm.
is it harming you instead
Hmm.
of solving the problem.
Hmm. Hmm. And it
Love that.
requires a lot of honesty to do that, because a
Yeah,
lot of
which
us
is painful.
yeah, and we're not being honest with ourselves. There's a
Yeah,
lot of habits that are creating so much pain and so much suffering in our
yeah.
life, on so many levels. And we're not being honest about it because most of these things are socially accepted, such as eating processed food or smoking or drinking. It's socially accepted, but what positive is it really bringing you in your life? So
Right.
real change starts with real honesty, and it also starts with taking, and like you mentioned, taking responsibility is a big
Mhm.
one. Because as long as, and that's where the real shift in terms of my change had occurred, is it wasn't right away. Oh, I met a psychologist, magic
Right.
dust, and I'm a new different person. No,
Right.
it
Right.
wasn't
Yeah.
like that. That
Right.
was just the start of things. That was
Right.
okay. I'm realizing that I need to establish a new routine. Okay, I need to take measures to heal. And was
Wow.
it a straight line? No, it wasn't a straight line. It was, um, oops, sorry,
So much
reverse.
gold.
Okay. Yeah, it was basically at first, if we want to look at a timeline on it, I started, what this incident happened, I was 25, and then I did my first competition at 28.
Hmm.
So basically, I think 2 years was a year and a half was a struggle, a struggle, a struggle, a struggle. And then a year and a half was just getting it back on track, getting
Hmm.
it. So it's like sometimes we look at people at the end and we're like, and that's why I think it's so important for us to share, because we look at people, especially people in fitness, that, they're in shape and they accomplish great things. And we're like,
Hmm.
wow, they have it so easy and it's easy for them. It wasn't easy for me. It
Hmm.
wasn't easy for me. It was fucking hard.
Hmm.
And it
Yep.
took me a year and a half of messing up. And, but what would happen is that those mess ups were less frequent. And because
Wow.
I had support, it was getting me back on track, and accountability. I would get back on track quicker. And then I would get resources on what I could do different. And then the longer I would go without doing it, when I would do it, that pain was amplified because now I had a comparison. So eventually I just got to a point that, it was less and less and less.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I really, really, really embarrassed myself.
Mm-hmm.
So this was like the turning point.
Mm-hmm.
A year and a half of trying and just trying. And, then I remember it was Christmas, Christmas, it was about a week from Christmas, and I started having a PTSD episode where what would happen is if I had too much stress, in this case, I was starting to see a bit tunnel vision. I couldn't really function at work. So my pupils would stay very big. It was like PTSD stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I took off work and I wasn't sleeping for almost 2 weeks. I didn't sleep. It was really horrible. Like my insomnia was really, really bad. And I had a boyfriend at that time that also liked to drink. And I went
Mm-hmm.
to his family's house and I ended up drinking on no sleep for 2 weeks. And it just got out of control. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
remember anything the next day. And this is the biggest learning point in this is that one of them, anyways,
Oh yeah, one of them. I'm shocked. Anyways, go ahead. Finish. Yeah, finish.
I truly, truly, truly embarrassed myself. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was kids, there was the family. Apparently, I got so belligerent that I told off everybody. I spit on the ground. We had to take me out of, and here I am, this young woman that wants to be a professional. But when I would get drunk, I was a complete mess because all
Mm-hmm.
that anger, I wasn't drinking to have fun. I was
Mm-hmm.
drinking, it was never enough alcohol because I was trying to cover up some pain that I just
Yeah.
couldn't drink away. So
Wow.
when I would drink, I was like, I would lose it. But in the
Mm-hmm.
past, what would happen is everybody would kind of just brush it off and forgive me, right? It was poor Tara. Tara's messed up. Something bad happened to her. And I was telling that story to myself too. I was saying to myself, "Oh,
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
wasted because I got stabbed because I had PTSD." When that happened and I embarrassed myself to that point, for one, somebody didn't forgive me, so I tried to apologize to his family, and his brother told me straight up, he's like, "You know what? You're a drunk. You're an alcoholic." He's like, "You need to get help." And that hearing the truth hurt me like a knife in the heart because now
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't being forgiven. And now I had to question myself too. Because I was like, you know what? I was like, it's true.
Wow.
If I know that I can't handle my behaviors, then it's up to me not to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I know every single time I'm going to drink, it's going to get out of control, then it's up to me not to drink. And at that very moment, I took responsibility for my outcomes and I said, I'm done. I am done. I'm cutting off whoever I need to cut off if to
Mm-hmm.
stop drinking. I'm done. I all I wanted was to say I'm not I did if I didn't have to go to restaurants anymore, I wasn't going. I'm not going to bars anymore. I don't want anything to do with it. And that's where I decided to hire a coach to compete. It had nothing to even do with winning a competition. It was actually to have a focus, to focus on myself and to have a reason to say to everybody else that I'm not drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like I'd always get caught up
Ah,
in that game.
okay.
Yeah, I could go
Got
to
it.
the restaurant. So that was the turning point that, really shifted my life in a complete
Wow.
different direction.
Mm.
Mm.
Mm. Tara. No, no, seriously. I am I don't think you understand. I don't think you understand the absolute gold. I believe personally this last 20 minutes will save lives. If
Thank you.
someone will listen to this last 20 minutes, you have broken down, dissected literally the psychology, the secret to a lot of people who are stuck on a substance. You have literally broken it down. There's stuff in there about why you did it, the excuses you made, what caused you to change. There is so much in there. And just recently, I was speaking with two clients who are struggling with the same thing, and I couldn't say it any better. And I'm going to make sure they listen to this. You may have saved at least, I know you're going to save a ton of lives, but I know too that you're probably going to make a huge impact on right after I'm even thinking, I don't even want to, I'm going to give
Thank
them this
you.
raw. I'm going to give them this raw because this
Thank
is,
you.
yeah, this
Well,
is. I don't think you understand. There's a book here. There's something here, man.
Yeah, and I think the great thing from this that comes out of this is really that it does demonstrate that, and I've talked about this in another podcast in the past,
Yeah.
that I truly believe that we all have this one biggest challenge. You know,
Yeah.
some it will be alcohol, some it will be procrastination, some it
Yeah.
will be bad relationships, you
Yeah.
know, like we all
Yep.
have something, but when we
Yep.
decide to overcome that one challenge, we
Mm-hmm.
step into our personal power.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, alcohol was the one thing that I truly believe my entire life was a bit holding me back, you
Mm-hmm.
know, holding me back from
Yeah.
being productive, holding me back from having clarity. And
Yeah.
then what I had lived through, you know, like I was so fed up of being in pain, and I just
Yeah.
decided that I was going to pursue my passion to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, serve me as a positive distraction. But these things allowed me to propel my life to a
Mm-hmm.
place now that is just so freaking incredible.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I could do that, then anyone could do it. So, like, that comparison is important
Mm-hmm.
because it's like overcoming from coming from nothing and
Yeah.
overcoming to
Yeah.
actually thriving, you know, from
Yeah.
surviving to thriving, really.
Yeah. That's going to be the name of the
The book.
podcast. Yeah, in the book, yes. So one question before I want to talk about one question before I move on to yours, what you do and how you help people and so on, and your method. You know, give us what you want to
Hmm.
give us about your method. But I
Hmm.
want to talk about, how did you forgive the
Hmm.
18 times stab the ex and move on? How did you do that?
I honestly, like, I think I just never really put that much attention on him. You know, that was never really like, there was the first in the beginning where I had, you know, the pain, but he made me go through so much that I was already, you know, detached emotionally from this individual. Like, he
Yeah.
lied about his age, he lied about having a kid. It was really like something out of a movie, really.
Yeah.
But I think what helped me really, like, to answer your question more clearly in terms of what helped me not live with that pain, and this is a bit the approach that it's going to be different for everyone, but for me, um, I think that's the big difference between going to, you know, therapy. Sometimes they focus just on the incident and the past. For me, that was something that was bringing me back on old behaviors. So what really helped me was focusing on the future, like who I want to be, what's like having goals that were pulling me forward
Hmm.
was allowing me to create new experiences. And because of these new experiences, well, I wasn't caught up in old emotions. So I think that's the biggest thing, is really having goals allows us to create a new identity. And when we create a new identity, we're creating new experiences. We're not living in the past anymore. So that pain doesn't affect us. Well, me, anyways, it doesn't affect me anymore because I'm living in the future. I'm not living in the past.
Hmm. Still, people are gonna say you're special. I know they're gonna say you're special, but that is what you should do. But I know some people are gonna be struggling to even do this. I think it's amazing, man, because I've helped a few people who struggle with substance, and it's a gorilla. It's a gorilla,
Mm.
and somehow you have. I didn't say it was easy. I'm not gonna make it sound easy, because you went from 18 to 25 and 3 more years after that. I mean, it took you, but yeah, I know some people who are still, the gorilla is still there. So,
Mm.
so awesome, awesome, awesome. I got to give you kudos, credit. Your life will change a lot of lives. So it's really special.
Thank
Now,
you.
I'm going to talk about your process and what are you doing out there right now, with your fitness and your using your pain here. So, but
Yeah.
before you go on, here's my title that I come up with for this: from surviving to thriving, use your pain to drive your passion. So how are
I
you
love that.
using your pain? Yeah.
Well, you see, that's the thing. So what brought me into coaching was like to answer that question first, what brought me into coaching in the first place was, the process itself allowed me to stay sober. And when I stayed sober, first off, after 3 months of completely eliminating alcohol and having a proper diet for my sport, my body changed like never before. So those results that I was always trying to get that I was never getting, I was finally seeing them. And that was because I eliminated all the toxins and I started putting the right things in my body, and I eliminated the toxic people and the toxic places. And I started feeling so happy, like my life was on a high. Like even prior to being stabbed, I never felt that good ever before. And it turns out that I remained sober for 9 months and still sober, going on 6 years.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's because I was not in pain anymore. I was doing the things that I loved and I didn't have any distractions. And that led to winning my first competition. And when I won my first competition, it was such an incredible accomplishment and moment and realization that I realized that I was stepping really into the life that I wanted to have, because I was using a process to stay fit mentally and physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And that if I was able to overcome all the challenges that I had with this simple process and to feel the way I did after all that, I knew that I could help other people do it also. And that's when I decided to start my coaching business, which incorporates my values and my experience and my knowledge to help other women transform their lives as well.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. And so here's what I and speak on this for a second. But Tara, what I got from what Tara said was she didn't just change in order to change and that be 6 years, which again, applause on that one. She didn't change one facet. So didn't just remove alcohol. She changed her entire anchoring
Oh
systems.
yeah.
So diet, mindset, working out,
Mm-hmm.
environment,
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think
Everything.
about the ad? So do you then would you say that it's essential that someone who's looking to change and break an addiction, that they have to think of it on a multiple levels instead of just say removing the substance?
Absolutely,
Mm,
100%. And that's applicable to anything and everything. When we want to be something else, we want to become something else, everything has to change. And it's the
yeah.
same thing. It's the same thing with our eating habits or with our career. When you want to become something bigger, often
Hmm.
what we're currently doing is not compatible anymore.
Yeah.
And that might involve people, that
Hmm.
might involve habits,
Yeah.
activities, places, but we have to be willing to let go of things. And sometimes what happens is we're so focused on what we need to let go of that we don't realize what we're actually gaining. We think we're letting go of things, and we perceive that to be
Hmm.
painful, so we don't do it. But if we don't let go of these things, we're not creating the room for the things that could truly serve us in our life. So it's like it's part of the process. It's part of the
Yeah.
growth process.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I'll summarize that again. And what I got from it was right now, if you're struggling and you are really finding it hard to change for the better, that for you, whatever that better is for you, you may be too busy focusing on what you're going to lose, like the habit. And a lot of things are associated with an addiction, like your friends,
Mm-hmm.
everything you came to know, your identity, everything. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things, and you have to, what Tara says, you have to be willing to let go of what you believe is this comfort zone, this
Mm-hmm.
certainty, this thing you already know for this, and you have to fall in love with what you're going to get, the results you're going to get, the way you're going to feel,
Mm-hmm.
the way you're going to, like Tara now, living in the Hollywood Hills. She knew that that is what I actually want. So I'm going to put my focus on not what I'm going to lose, the pain and the familiarity, being vulnerable. she focused on what I'm gonna get, and she started to move towards that. And now she's a world champion. She lives in Hollywood Hills.
Yeah.
She's a empowered, independent woman, uh, living her own
But
life.
Alvin,
So
I need to add to that though, Alvin, because it's
right,
really important too that we replace these habits, so that
mm,
we don't feel depleted.
right,
Because a lot of times that's the hardest thing when
yeah,
it comes to change, is
mm-hmm.
that if you just quit, let's say,
Yeah.
drinking alcohol, but you're not replacing it with other
Ah,
activities that will give you pleasure in positive ways, it won't be sustainable because you're going to have a drop in dopamine that's going to lead to cravings that eventually you won't be able to keep up with your willpower. So it's very important to replace, to constantly be looking at replacing, and
yeah.
it's by replacing and discovering that we actually create a new identity as well.
Harry, I'm done with
Mhm.
you. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I don't know what anybody else is getting from this, but I'm done with her now. Because what what she says there in a nutshell is nature hates a vacuum. If you leave an empty space, it'll get filled with something. And if you don't put something in there that you want to be in there, it'll get filled again with the old habits. So you won't run around with an empty space, you'll fill it. So
Yeah,
unbelievable. Oh, Tara. Oh my goodness.
thank you.
So again, anybody listening, please, you can save somebody's life literally by letting them listen to this. This is not for me. I don't, yeah, it'll, spread the word, but this is for your friend that you have who's not listening to you. They're not going to listen to you because they already heard you say this 1,000 times. Let Tara tell them, and
Mhm.
and so on. So on that note, Tara, how can someone get a hold of you? Where can they see you? Social media, your website? Let us know.
Well, I always encourage people to follow me first on Instagram.
Right.
Instagram, my handle is tinyt.fitness. That's where I share a lot of, nutrition, training, lifestyle stuff. But like then I have, for those that are interested in knowing more, I do have a private community afterwards. For people that want to contact me directly, of course, they could do it through DM on Instagram, or I have a link in my bio as well.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And we'll have that all in the show notes as well. Everything Tara just said. Tara,
Hmm.
you're gonna save lives. Like, and
Thank
that's that's
you.
that's special. That's special. You're blessed 18 times, cut across the throat, the whole 9 yards. You are still here for a reason. And I think
I think so.
we know why now. If you haven't figured it out, I can tell you why. But anyways, yeah, I think everybody listening will know why you're here. So, and doing things like this, writing your book and your movie later on, I think those things are going to help millions of people. So,
Thank you.
all the best. I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate our friendship now, our new friendship, which will be,
Yeah, it's so exciting.
so yeah, I have a ton of respect for you. This is awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Alvin. I hope you have a great one. We'll connect soon, okay?
You got it. And so everybody, visit
Ciao,
Tara
guys.
on her site, follow her, be empowered by her. And I'm always saying, Tara actually lives a statement I said where I say, don't get through your life, get from your life. She did that, and she's here as testimony. And I want you to be relentless about your pursuit for personal mastery. All right, everybody. Peace and love.